Alright, so back in Season of the Lost, Warmind Cells were finally nerfed into the ground and have been borderline unusable since. Their only real utility is for ad clear in lower end PvE content, and a lot of people have been somewhat awaiting the day that they finally decide to either remove them from the game or give them just any kind of a buff. And when Season of the Seraph was first shown off and announced, a lot of people expected to get more Warmind Cell mods, or some buffs to Warmind Cells in general. However, that didn't happen. We got the Ikelos weapons brought back again, and we got some of the 7th Seraph weapons brought back again, but we did not get any new Warmind Cell mods, and we did not get any buffs to existing Warmind Cell mods. And despite the fact that the Ikelos and 7th Seraph weapons got an origin trait, it has absolutely nothing to do with Warmind Cell mods, which is very disappointing, or even just Warmind Cells in general. Warmind Cell mods were also not updated to include any of the new subclass 3.0 verbs, so they don't work with Incandescent if you're trying to use the solar splash damage, and they don't work with Jolt, so it's really weird trying to use them now because they're very outdated, and it's a little bit confusing that Bungie brought these weapons back but didn't do anything to improve the main, I guess, cool factor about them. And the Ikelos SMG is still good with Volt Shot, but without Volt Shot it's not worth using unless you're running it in PvP with Killing Wind Rangefinder. But Warmind Cells just don't feel as good as they used to. So I decided to try and find a build that actually worked with Warmind Cells, and the best thing I could come up with was surprisingly not using a single Ikelos weapon. At first, I thought that the Callus Mini Tool would be a pretty good option, but because Incandescent doesn't work, I couldn't use my Callus Mini Tool in fixed odds build, so I decided to go for the next best option, and that unfortunately ended up being Gallarhorn, which is one of just the most blatantly overpowered exotics, and has been for a while. No, I am not asking for it to get nerfed, I'm just very surprised that it ended up being the best Warmind Cell generating weapon, and I paired that with Starfire Protocol and Enhanced Fusion Nades on Warlock. The reason I did Enhanced Fusion Nades was because the second explosion from the Fusion Nades sometimes was able to detonate the Warmind Cell that spawned off of the first explosion and kill even more adds, which was really nice. The build I was running included Warmind's Longevity and Wrath of Rasputin for hopefully self-explanatory reasons, and then Burning Cells to add stacks, well, what I thought would be stacks of Scorch to pair with Incandescent, although that ended up being useless, and Wrath of Rasputin and Global Reach, though, were the main things that helped with this build, mostly because Wrath of Rasputin allowed for solar splash damage to create Warmind Cells, so I paired that with Explosive Personality and Gallarhorn, and then Global Reach to slightly increase the radius, although I still think that nerf was way too far and it could barely hit shit from a distance anymore, which is extremely disappointing. But this did help with ad clear in a couple of heist battlegrounds. It was very good for clearing out entire rooms with ease, but it's just not very good for DPS because Wrath of Rasputin just doesn't do that much anymore. Power of Rasputin just doesn't do that much anymore, which is really disappointing. And as much as I love that mod, it is just not as viable as it once was, which is super disappointing. So Warmind Cells may not be good for high-end PvE. But you're hopefully not gonna see people running them in raids or anything like that, or dungeons. But they are definitely good for speeding through some of the more grindy activities. You could probably get away with running them in Gambit unless you're trying to win, and you could probably get away with running them in any strike playlist, just not Grandmasters or Masters. Heist Battlegrounds, definitely a good place to use them though, because it definitely makes some of those middle areas feel much faster, and it's very easy for when you're trying to kill those fallen captains and get those cores that you need to dunk. But other than that, unfortunately, they're just not viable anymore, and this season didn't really do much to improve that. It just kind of showed us that the weapons that's main purpose was to, the weapons whose previous main purpose was to create Warmind Cells are just outclassed by completely different weapons that have nothing to do with it. Not just because of one mod, but because Bungie kind of did nerf them too hard, and it's a big shame and it's quite a shame because we don't really have any build diversity right now. For high-end PvE, you just want to run fonts pretty much. Font of Might and Elemental Time Dilation is just too good for DPS. Charged with Light is pretty much only useful if you're running Lament or just any other sword. High Energy Fire doesn't really do very much for high-end PvE anymore. And Charged with Light, needing to use the Harmonic Siphon or Kinetic Siphon mods to create orbs instead of just using Masterworks, kind of does put a damper on being able to use more things in your builds because it takes away from the amount of energy that you have available. So All in all, I do wish Warmind Cells were much better, but they're still not worth using right now, which is very disappointing. But yeah, if you guys found this helpful, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your favorite Warmind Cell mod is, and if you guys are happy that they're dead, or if you want them to be brought back up. I will catch you guys later.